Hello and welcome to Yoga with Carolynne. My name is Carolynne and this is Nala. As soon as I start talking, she always tends to get up and say hi. We're back with a yoga practice. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been experimenting with a few different types of videos for you. But this week we're back into some yoga. And today's practice is a Restful Yin yoga practice. Props that you're gonna want for today's practice are a few yoga blocks, a yoga bolster, a meditation cushion, or a folded up blanket. And that is more so just to be able to add some weight. We're gonna be using those props to add some weight to your body. So if it's not a meditation cushion, then a folded up blanket will work just fine. And then optional is an eye mask or an eye pillow if you've got that lying around. So put on your comfy clothes, roll out your yoga mat, grab all of your props, and let's get started. Welcome to Yoga with Carolynne, teaching empaths and sensitive souls just like you how to create a collaborative relationship with your body through cozy, accessible yoga and self-care practices in order to live a life filled with less doing and more being. You're going to be starting today's practice in a wide-legged supported child's pose. This is my favorite way to practice this pose because it's really supported. You don't get quite as much of a stretch out of it, and it can be a really grounding shape. So a beautiful way to start out a Restful Yin yoga practice. So you will set up your props the same way that I've got mine. So if your knees are slightly sensitive, then I would suggest that you place your blanket unfolded on your mat, and then you position your knees so that they're about the width of your yoga mat, a little wider, a little bit less narrow. And then your toes are touching and your hips are seated on your heels. If this looks like it will be uncomfortable, then you can grab an added prop, maybe a cushion that you've got nearby, and placing that in between your hips and your heels. And then you'll see here that I've got my blocks positioned where there's some space in between the two blocks, and then the bolster is on top of that. The reason that you've got space in between the two blocks is so that you can put your arms wrapping around the bolster. So you'll be positioning your entire front line of the torso onto this prop so that then you have one cheek down resting on the bolster and you've got your arms wrapped around the bolster. Do any last adjustments. Maybe you want to bring your knees in a little closer, kind of wiggle your body so that it feels snug and secure and supported and safe here. And then you allow yourself to arrive. Giving yourself the time and the space at the beginning of your practice to let it be okay if it takes a little bit of time for you to shift into your practice. Resting is not something that you might tend to do a lot of the time. Or maybe resting for you looks like still slightly keeping busy because it might feel kind of uncomfortable when you begin to slow down. You can take a little bit of time for the parasympathetic nervous system to begin to activate. So in order to support yourself through this transition from your life, your busy life, to this space here of your practice, I'd encourage you to take a few sighs out the mouth. The hips get heavy and the shoulder blades slide away from each other. You are here in your space, in your practice, in this little pocket of time in your day where this space is for you. If you find at any time during today's practice that your mind wanders or your mind gets busy, in a way to really support this restful state, let it be okay if your mind wanders. If you begin to daydream, if you begin to think, it's okay. If at any point you notice that your mind is focusing or thinking on things that begin to make your body or your heart feel uncomfortable, not supported, or stressed, you have the power to choose to think about something else. It's okay if you end up thinking or daydreaming. Giving yourself a little bit of grace for the reality of the fact that you're a human and that you're probably not going to be Zen all of the time. You will begin to release out of this shape by sliding the hands away from each other so the palm of the hands connect to the floor. So move really, really slow here. Once the palms of the hand connect to the floor, take a moment to feel the floor. Feel the texture beneath the palm of your hands, maybe touching the mat or your blanket. Feel the ground. Feel its support in your practice today. You can keep the eyes really soft as you press into the hands to lift yourself up away from that prop. Moving the props just in front of you, you will be using them for the next shape. Just creating a little bit of space for your body here to move after that. So you'll bring the hands back onto the floor and you bring the knees back in line with the hips. And then what would feel really nice here after that shape? It might feel really good for you to straighten into one leg, curling the toes under, finding a stretch in the back line of that leg, and then doing that on the other side. Or maybe it would feel nice for you to bring some circles into the hips. And then from here, we'll make our way into the next shape. So you'll bring yourself down onto the floor so that then you're facing the long edge of your yoga mat. So to position yourself into the shape, we're coming into twisted deer pose. So again, a nice grounding shape, nice release for the hips and the low back. So I'm going to be mirroring you here. You're going to swing the left leg out towards the side and the right leg is in front of you. You've got a bend to both of your legs, 90-degree angle in both of those legs, flexing into your ankles. So shin of the right leg is parallel to the front of your space. Shin of the left leg is parallel to the side of your space. And then your bolster is going to be your helpful prop for this next shape, and you'll be placing the bolster so that it is kind of like shooting away from your body, away from that right hip, because we're going to be twisting towards the right. So from here, you'll position your fingertips like down on the floor wherever you can to find some length in your spine. And then using that length that you have just created, you will begin to walk yourself so that you're twisting towards the right. Your left hip is going to come up away from the mat, so that's okay. That's kind of what we're going for. So really pressing that left hip away from the floor to really find yourself into the twist. And then you get to really choose where you end your twist. So once you find a spot where you begin to feel sensation in your hips and in your low back, you will then begin to walk your body away from your hips to bring yourself down onto this support. So your entire torso is meant to be coming down onto this bolster. You can bring the right cheek down or the left cheek down. You get to choose whatever feels okay for your neck. So if the bolster is a little bit too low and you find yourself having to strain to come into the supported shape, then you can bring your blocks underneath of your bolster to raise the floor up a little bit so that then your bolster is a bit more accessible. So this might be a nicer option. So you do any sort of last adjustments. You come into the shape and maybe you just want to like wiggle into the hips and reposition the feet so that you find a stretch that feels really good, that feels really nice. And then your eyes come to a close. And then you're here for a little while. If you are new or coming back to the Yin yoga practice, these poses are held for extended periods of time. There's many reasons for that, and I could list them all off right now, but instead I'm going to simply allow the practice to speak for itself so that you can explore what happens within the stillness of these shapes, what happens in the time in which you spend in these shapes. At any point, if you get kind of bored or fidgety, come back to your breath. Focus again on the sensations in your body, allowing yourself to receive and practice rest. To release, moving slow again like you did when you made your way out of child's pose, you'll position the palms of your hands onto the floor. And then you press into your hands to bring yourself up away from those props. Don't worry about the props just yet. Let's release that shape. So you'll slide that back leg in front of you and take a moment here. You can find yourself just coming into stillness, the hands coming behind you, and it might feel good to just straighten into the legs. Bring your eyes to a close, find some movement into the neck. If it would feel really inviting for you to find some movement, then you can place the soles of the feet onto the floor and allow the knees to fall from side to side. And then getting ready to come into the shape on the other side. So now you'll worry about your props. So you'll position your props on the other side. So if you used the blocks and the bolster, then you're bringing those. If you just used the bolster, then you're just bringing the bolster over. And then you're swinging the right leg out towards the side and the left leg comes in front of you, finding that 90-degree angle in both of your legs. So really take your time to set yourself up. So flexing into those ankles, taking a look at the positioning of the shins. And the reason that we start really symmetrical here is just to keep your hips and your knees nice and safe as you fidget and you move and you come into the shape. And then once you come into it, then you can soften and you can reposition the legs, making sure that the entire time your knees feel okay. So once you've got that position in the legs and your prop is already on the other side, you use the fingertips connected to the floor wherever to find that length in your spine. Whenever you're coming into a twist, lengthening before twisting will simply aid in finding that twist. So once you find that length, then you begin to twist towards the left. The right hip comes up away from the floor, and once you find a spot where you begin to feel a stretch in your body, then you walk your torso away from your hips to bring yourself down onto your prop. And again, you get to choose right cheek or left cheek down. One is not better or more advanced than the other. They're both just options. And then once you bring yourself down, you do any sort of last adjustments in the body. Maybe you are noticing that you would benefit from more or less props, so you take a moment so that you can then come into a shape where you're finding sensation that you know you'll be able to experience for the period of time that you will be here. So it's called finding your edge in the Yin yoga practice. Every exhale is an invitation for your body to soften into the shape, into the floor, into the ground. There's nowhere you have to go and nothing you have to do here. This is your time. To release out of the shape, you'll slide the hands so that the palm of the hands connect to the floor on either side of your prop. And you press into the floor to lift yourself up. And then go where your body would like to go here. It might be stillness or it might be movement. You get to choose. Maybe you want to just bring your eyes to a close so that you're not even looking at me and you're just focusing on what your body would like to do. Enjoying the fact that this space is one where there's no wrong answer. We'll then come into the next shape. So we're coming now onto your back in a supported shape, coming into supported fish, but it's more of, again, we've been doing a lot of shapes that are a little bit more restorative in nature. So again, this will be a little bit more restorative in nature. So you will be using your blocks as well as your folded up blanket or your meditation cushion. So I've got my blanket still on the floor and I've got a meditation cushion, but if you just have the blanket, then you're using the blanket instead of the meditation cushion. So you'll be positioning your meditation cushion or your folded up blanket underneath of your bolster. so that then you're creating this like really tiny little ramp. So bolster is going to be behind your body, and your meditation cushion or your folded up blanket is underneath of that. And then your blocks are going to be for underneath of your knees. So you're coming into a supported fish shape. So you bring the soles of the feet together and your knees open wide. And then you've got that little ramp that's ready for your spine to lay onto it. And then once you make your way onto your back, it might be really nice here, now that we're nearing the end of the class, for you to place your eye mask or your eye pillow across your eyes. You do any sort of last wiggles or shifts in the shoulders, and then you allow your arms to come down onto the floor with your palms face up towards the sky. If you're used to practicing supported fish and you're used to like a really big shape across the heart, I would encourage you to soften it a little bit today, and you allow the arms to be a little bit closer to your hips. A little bit of a softer positioning for the arms. Your elbows are grounded on the floor. So this shape here is the last shape that you are practicing today before coming into Savasana. We're going to be exploring a pranayama, a breathing exercise during this shape here to help facilitate rest, soothe the nervous system. So it's a very simple breathing exercise, and I'll guide you through the first few rounds. Essentially, what we're doing is incorporating a longer exhale in the way in which you're breathing. So I will be working with a count of 4 and 8. So an inhale on the count of 4 and an exhale on a count of 8. But if you find that 8 is too long, then you can bring it down to 6 or 7. I'm going to guide you through the first 2 rounds and then allow you to explore what length of breath would feel best for you. So you'll be breathing in and out of the nose. From here, you'll breathe into the belly. You'll take an inhale through the nose, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And your exhale out your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale at the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Continue counting in your own head. And maybe your exhales are a little bit shorter, maybe 6 or 7 count, or maybe just 5, just adding an extra count. Doesn't mean that you're not doing it right if you're having to change it. This is your practice. Next time you exhale, you will then allow your breath to come back to a natural rhythm. Noticing the effects of that breath on your body, your mind, and your heart. To release out of this shape, You will bring the hands behind you, behind your head, to then lift the head up and tuck the chin in towards the chest, and then placing the elbows or the forearms down onto the ground so that you can press yourself up out of that shape. And then you'll be setting yourself up for your Savasana. And this is where you are going to be using that folded up blanket or meditation cushion for the added weight on your body. So we're going to set the props up here. You're going to be using pretty much all of the props for your Savasana today. This is a really restful positioning for the body. So I'm going to turn, but you don't have to, just so that you'll be able to see my positioning of the props, just because Nala's head is in the way. So this little structure is going to be placed at the lower end of your mat. So you'll be placing the blocks side by side with a little bit of space in between. Essentially what we're doing here is we're creating a raised platform for your legs to come onto. So you get to choose the height of the blocks. If your blocks are a little bit steadier than mine, then they can come in their highest height. But you just want to make sure that you're creating a structure that's going to be stable so that you don't feel like your legs are having to engage a little bit to stay there. And you place the bolster onto those blocks. And then you bring yourself down onto your back so that you place the back of your bottom part of your legs onto this little building that you've created. And then your weighted prop, so your meditation cushion or your folded up blanket, gets positioned on your low belly. And then you'll place your eye mask on here for your restorative Shavasana. And then you slide the shoulder blades towards each other. The arms come alongside the body with the palms open towards the sky. Letting your jaw soften and your eyes soften. Your whole body settles into the floor. There's nowhere you have to go. There's nothing you have to do. Allowing yourself to enjoy this space, this time to simply be. allow the awareness to come back into the body, moving really gently, really slowly. You'll remove that prop from your low belly. Keep the eye mask on here just to gently transition out of the shape back into the world. So you'll bring the knees in towards the chest, rocking from side to side to eventually bring yourself into fetal position on the right or the left side, it doesn't matter. And then in your fetal position, you'll slowly take the eye mask off or the eye pillow off, pressing yourself up into your comfortable seat. Bringing the hands into heart center, the palms are connected. We'll take one last breath together, you and I, to end today's class. You'll take an inhale right here. Exhale out the mouth. Fluttering the eyes open. Thank you so much for joining me during today's Restful Yin yoga practice. I truly hope that you can have a restful rest of your day, a restful rest of your week. And if you enjoyed today's practice, then please let me know in the comments below or like the video to show your support. If you're not a subscriber, it would be absolutely wonderful to have you join this little cozy community that we've created here. I will also mention that I've got a brand new winter yoga schedule that's coming out in the next week or so. So if you're interested to know more about that, then I've left a link to my newsletter down below. Thank you so much for joining me, and until next time.